if I'm watching one or the other, but
Sure.
I'll try to off. Yeah. So glad you're here. Oh my gosh.
Likewise,
Really
this is gonna be
excited.
good.
If I'm watching one or the other, but
Sure.
I'll try to off. Yeah.
Let's try to word things in a way that YouTube doesn't take us off, I guess. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. So I need to
one or the
figure
other,
out.
but I'll try to off.
You can mute YouTube on your tab browser. In your tab,
There.
you
Okay.
you right click and you put mute.
I think I did it.
You
Okay.
tap. Yes, got
Thank
it.
you for your help. Okay, so
Yes.
we're live and now I'm getting the link. So I'm copying the link
Okay, perfect.
and I'm gonna, so this is a new person here to YouTube Live and Alessandro is helping me. And I'm gonna put the link in the chat for us because we're doing a Zoom. And then I'm gonna take a moment and send this out to my Substack subscribers since I was
Got it.
hoping Substack.
Got it here. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna publish it on my Telegram now.
This is a new person here to YouTube Live.
Let me mute this. Okay, perfect. Now I'm gonna share it everywhere. If you give me like 2 minutes, I'll be able
Oh
to
yeah,
do
I
it.
need it too. So
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
okay.
So should I put live stream with your full name or just
Yeah,
Anastasia?
sure. Anastasia, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, here we go. So there's a post. Okay, so now I'll get this out to Substack. So bear with us if you're watching this. This is new and exciting and oh, so
And I saw your Substack. You have quite a few people there. It's not small as you said. I mean, Substack is actually a bit hard to build, in my opinion.
okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's
Yes,
I loved it. I love the platform and I'm sad the live didn't work, but I don't think they're really set up for PC lives. I think that they're set up for sort of cell phone
for
lives.
mobile. Yes,
Yeah.
I happened to I had to go and do some groceries because the missus started working like 3 hours ago. So I needed to go and take care of some things and also cash in some promotions that we had there for discounts. And my
No.
cell phone died, so
Well,
okay.
life.
Telegram is done. I'm gonna put it on Facebook and Gap and Twitter and Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, let me just send a link to this friend of mine that was asking for it.
Okay, and then I just realized I spelled your name wrong. So that's wait.
It's with 2 S's. It's a common mistake, don't worry.
Well, I added an A, so I have to correct it. So I do that with names, and I apologize.
No worries. I do that too sometimes. It's
I
Italian,
don't think
so
I can change it, so I put Alessandra because um so I have to change this. I have to get your name right. There's no way I cannot. So hold on a second. So before, oops. Okay, now I lost the audio. Okay, let's see. Wonder if it's the okay, Alessandro. This is I have to figure out how to correct this.
no worries, no worries. Take your time because I'm still spamming everyone.
Okay, well, now that you're spamming everyone, you're spamming them with this YouTube link. And in the YouTube link, I spelled your name wrong.
Okay, well, that's not a problem. Well, actually, my name doesn't appear on the live. Oh, you mean that on the live I'm gonna appear as Alessandra?
Well, there,
Permanently?
I've just figured out how to change it. So save.
Okay,
Okay.
no
Shoot.
problem.
So I know someone named Alondra, and that's part of
Of
my pickup.
course.
So
I
yeah,
spoke with him once briefly, but I heard his testimony fully with this other woman. What's her name? I forget her name.
there's Max
Uh,
Lumen.
yes.
Yeah. So okay, well, we figured that out.
Okay, now it's shared on Facebook.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'm putting
It's
it on
shared
my
on Gap.
okay. Awesome.
And
Okay.
now let's go to X real quick.
Okay, so
Okay, it's done.
okay. Continue. Everyone. Okay, send now. Okay. We're live. So, okay, so I do kind of want to do my opening prayer again, just as we invite people to join us. So that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just calling on God to surround us with love, light, and protection for our intention, which is to connect and broadcast live thoughts. Really, our thoughts from our hearts, I hope, our minds, our bodies, our spirits, about full disclosure and what it means and the challenges that face people who are trying to live in truth. And I do want to express my deep gratitude that we can be here together. And may every word be the highest word of God that we can muster. And may we be protected as we set out of this endeavor, and whatever evolves from this, may it be good. Any and all assistance is welcome through God. And anything negative interfering or even surveilling with neutrality, we ask that you join us in our positive intent, or be gone. You will not resonate. And so it is. Blessed be. Amen.
Amen.
Anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to ask God for this message and this podcasting itself to be absorbed by people in a way that is full of hope and full of love and light and truth, despite the subjects that we're going to talk that are obviously very hard to digest, especially if you're new to these things. It's not about doom and gloom. It's not about being hopeless. It's not about surrendering to evil. It's the opposite. And the only way we can do that is via the truth, which is, of course, God. And in Him, we put our strength and our courage and our will. That's it.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Affirm. Well,
I guess we're live.
yeah, we're live. This is so
Good.
exciting. Thank you. If anyone's watching, thank you. And I suppose this could be recorded for later. I want to speak about so many things, but I do find it's kind of nice when I'm working with someone such as yourself to also ask if there's inspiration. And you were starting to tell a story before we got on this live, and I really want to hear what that story is and see where that takes us. I also love the candle behind you. That makes it seem like a sacred space.
Thank you. Well, I try to make my office a nice place to be, since I spend here most of my days, and usually minimum 8 hours, but sometimes it goes to 16, 18, depends on the energy that I have, especially when I'm editing. So
Oh yeah, you create so much amazing content. I just finished
yeah.
all 11 of Louder Than Love, so
Oh
we got to talk
wow,
about that today. But
that's wow, that's a lot. That's a lot to digest. No, 11
yes,
hours of
yes. I mean,
investigation.
not all in one, but in a short period of time. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, you were starting to tell a story.
Yes, well, I was telling you that well, at least for me, I always like to meet people like you, because and people are often like a bit hesitant or a bit intimidated to perhaps work with people like us that have been doing this for years, because they think we're gonna say no, or that we only work with big name. That's dead to me, basically, because as one of my friends was saying, the fact that you feel lonely in this and you're not working with anyone that promotes you or one of the big names is actually a good sign, because the space has been completely controlled, co-opted
Yeah.
since basically COVID 2020. I remember that in 2018 there was many of us that were starting and that were doing, just amateur investigative research,
Yeah.
and just with the Pizzagate stuff and SRA and different cases like you could argue old cases like the McMartin preschool case or
Yeah.
the Finders and things like that. Epstein,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these big names started to pop up and completely control where the traffic and where the subscriptions were going.
Oh yeah.
As at the same time, the little people were getting intimidated, threatened, killed. Even there's a list of people that have been killed that do what we do.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than people think.
Yeah.
It's actually bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
And or they just got censored to the point that they just gave up.
Yeah.
I've been close to giving up 2 or 3 times because of censorship alone.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so frustrating. I don't know if it happened to you, probably, but when I started doing this, I started in 2017, but by 2019 I was already exploding in Facebook and in YouTube. My account grew from 0 to 11,000, 12,000 followers in a month,
Yeah.
exposing Sacha Stone precisely.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I messed with this guy, Gabe Hoffman, who is I also control a position, and he sent all his Jewish lawyers to threaten everyone on social media. And a week later, I was taken off of everything, even PayPal. But that discourages many people, because what happens is that you become ostracized not only on social media, but if you have a career in which, especially if it's like public relations, or your name has to be out there as a representative of a company, you're never gonna get hired again. I mean, it would take someone to be as out there as us, as far as the truth goes, to take the risk and say, hey, this guy does this content. Yes, that's his thing, but he still works for us.
Yeah.
So that's the fear, and I feel for those people, because I used to be a fan of many that are no longer here. I remember this guy that was doing an amazing research on James Alefantis, and he was doing legwork around the Comet Ping Pong area,
Yeah.
and he found this Pegasus Museum, which was supposed to be the torture room that you can see in one of the pictures on Alefantis's Instagram account. And as soon as he published that video, he got a call from James Alefantis. He doesn't know how he got his number, but he started threatening him, his girlfriend, his mother. 2 years later, the guy's gone. He just closed his accounts, never did any research again. And
Yeah.
can you blame him?
I don't hold blame for people. What I hold is I'm tremendously grateful for people like you who have not closed down. And I want to be one of those people who doesn't close down. I feel sad. I hold sorrow for the losses that everyone who's still alive, who is interested in the truth in these extreme categories, has suffered. We are a grieving community, whether people know it or not. If they're not grieving, then the chances are they're just traumatized, like not thinking about it
Exactly,
and
exactly,
trying to
exactly.
go on as best they
Trying
can.
to be a bit in denial, perhaps, because denial keeps you on the narrow path, but sooner or later it catches up to you. So
That's right, because you have a constricted life. And if we want to have a full, joyful life and love and be in our bodies, we have to figure out what's in here, and that can include sorrow. So
exactly.
I'm Anastasia Sprout, and I am an amateur investigator and news reporter. I liked Nancy Drew books when I was a kid, and I actually believe that I was destined by what I call the death cult to
Mhm.
become a talking head spooks model.
Mm.
Um, and that would be a CIA puppet to
Uh-huh.
spew lies. And I did not go down that path. I started fighting back when I was, especially in college, started to wake up a bit. And then I moved into psychology. So if I sound like I'm using psychological terms, talking about trauma and grief, that was my
No,
field.
no. I studied psychology too in college. It so happens.
There you go. So, and I've been learning about you. So I watched this amazing interview you did with Gabby Chung.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, he's an investigator. He studied, and I wrote it all out, which of course right now I don't have it right with me, and so this is a live, it's informal. I'm not a talking head
Yeah,
speech
you
model.
know,
This is part of
it
how I
doesn't need to be
know.
like this professional. This is not a movie or a documentary. This is two people
Yeah,
exchanging experiences and information for everyone who is watching us to get closer to the truth. That's it. And we can relax about it. Doesn't need
beautiful.
to
And I will write that down when I do the description of this video because that's a
be
beautiful
perfect.
summary of the intent. It captures it perfectly. Yeah. So anything you want to say for people about who you are and why you do this?
Well, who I am, you know, it leads to different pathways, I guess, because I could start with saying that, like you, I was supposed to be something else. I was supposed to be an entertainer, mind controlled, of course, and who got through. It was, you could say, 9 months of SRA when I was 4 or 5 years old, 4 years old actually,
I'm so sorry.
and it's okay. That's the thing. People say, "Well, you look so good and you look so well put after going through that." It's like almost unbelievable, and I tell them, "Well, you should have met me 10 years ago." Because of course, like the difference is
Yeah.
like heaven and hell. And people wonder, but how? Because there's many people like us who have gone through that.
Yeah.
Obviously, in my case, I was fortunate because it was only 9 months, and there's things that I wasn't forced to experience compared to others who were born in it and were going through it for 14, 15 years of their lives,
Yeah.
or even more. And that clearly is a big difference. I don't want to diminish what happened to me, but when comparing it to what happened to many others who spend a decade in it, it's just not the same thing. I was able to somehow survive it and evade the later attempts that they did with medications, with putting abusers in my path, to keep a certain amount of trauma going on.
Mhm.
But in the end, what I am now is I am a married Christian. I would like to call myself a man of God because I ask for him to guide me in everything.
Mm.
I didn't used to be this way.
Mhm.
I used to be more like I thought I could, try to. I don't want to say play both sides because that takes to another road.
Mhm.
But I had I had a dose of pride. I had a dose of certain things that certainly don't go along with living I want to say an open, honest life, especially in what we do,
Mhm.
because you really have to get rid of that. The thing of the pride, the greed, um, even wrath, because sometimes you get so angry with even the trolls, the bots, the censorship,
Mm.
the people that are out there that actually harmed you personally. It makes you really angry. But when you decide to really push that aside, in the end, I'm just a man trying to prevent this from happening to other children and to stand my ground in defending the most vulnerable locally in what I can do here in the village where I live in Portugal. And obviously online, if anyone tries to reach me and ask me for advice or help, I try to do whatever I can. And that's my purpose in this. It's a way of me of coping with what happened to me, and it has come to the point that what happened to me has become, for me, I don't regret it. I
Mm.
don't feel bad about it anymore. It used to torment me,
Mhm.
but now I see it as a medal. Like when you go to war and you see all these men killed around you and all this violence and all these horrors,
Yeah.
they gave you a silver medal or something like that, something symbolical.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to feel these experiences, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have started doing this.
Yeah.
There's many things that wouldn't happen the way they have happened.
Yeah.
Even that cat that is there sleeping on my office bed wouldn't be here probably if it wasn't for that, the little things. So in the end, everything happens for a reason, even the bad stuff. And that has made me at peace with everything for now.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's very powerful to hear. And the weaving in of meaning um, in all aspects of your life and the surrendering of all aspects to God. Um, and so I I wrote out a outline of things that we could talk about because I was
I
curious
saw,
about.
I saw and I liked it. I said, well, this is gonna be interesting for sure.
Well, and I even have more time than 2 hours if we want, but I know you might have things to do. But I know it's very ambitious, but I love that we're starting with a prayer and purpose because for me, like I have three purposes as I understand them. So one is to love and be loved, and as you know, on the spiritual with everything that I possibly can.
Of course.
Um, and two is to expose. Um, Not just, you know, it used to be about, oh, teaching people about healthy sexuality and, you know,
Uh-huh.
teaching people about love. But then it was like, oh, at this planet, you have to teach about the dark. You can't just teach about the light and expect that it's going to be complete because there's so much darkness in the shadows that needs to come out. So we have to reckon with. And so to me, it is kind of exposing the taboos and the lies so that we could help children, just, you know, very much in alignment with what you said. And the third is to support people who have been afflicted in childhood, particularly because we're all SRA survivors now on the mass level. We're all
Yeah.
mass mind control survivors. So, but I feel called to help people who have been through it as children to heal. And so those three are the things I'm working with. And when you spoke about as if you were in a war and you're seeing people fall like all around you. Like I just honor. So I'm here in Seattle. So I'm
Yes.
at a friend's house. We had so it's
It's not
beautiful.
raining.
Isn't it? I know. No, this is the side of Seattle they don't show you so that it doesn't get
Wow.
overpopulated. So this is the Puget Sound. I'm in West
Ah,
Seattle, and
that's very
it's
nice.
really amazing here. And
Yeah.
so it's also very dark here, and it's in the sense of the energetic densities,
Yes.
all the shadows, the secrets, the operations, the groups that are hiding in plain sight. Here's the gate
Mm.
center is here. Um, and so I was abused here as a survivor of satanic ritual abuse and trauma-based mind control. And so it was tough for me to come back here. So on my Substack blog, I write about this caravan that I've done for a year, and I left June 1st last year. And so coming back here, this is the second time I've come back, but it's heavy.
Of course, of
Um,
course.
yeah, and memories I've not processed all the way yet. And so, but I've been watching your Louder Than Love series, and you have so much amazing content. And it's such a gift to humanity, what you're creating. And I just want to thank you for how
Thank
you do that because you're an investigator and then it's like, what if you had an investigator who was conscious of organized extreme abuse and global conspiracy, criminal conspiracies, which are real? And I loved how you defined theory, by the way. It's like
Mhm.
everyone should be a conspiracy theorist as it's actually
Exactly.
defined.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
but you
And
put out,
everything is a conspiracy. If you look at it, every single crime that is done by two or more people is a
yeah,
conspiracy.
yeah, it's just
The
as so
naming
common as
itself,
yeah, most they gang up to. So we're having a a conspiracy of light, but it's not a secret. So it's not a
exactly,
conspiracy. It's in
exactly,
the open.
exactly. It's
Like
in
we're
the
having
open
a
is different.
yes
Exactly.
collaboration of light
Exactly.
and
Because
so
being secretive doesn't lead to anything good in your personal
no.
relationships or in general in society.
That's right. Sick as our secrets. That's a saying
Yeah.
in recovery. I mean, so in watching Louder Than Love, I thought, what if I could have an investigator who would give me their report, not like a written report, but in video? Like that would be the most amazing thing. And that's what you've done. And so you don't have to prove things. You're showing video proof. I
Exactly.
mean, it's like it's all right. I mean, it's never been more in the open. These so in a way, these criminals they're almost not having conspiracies anymore because they're almost not secret anymore. It's
Exactly.
like,
They don't, and they go around life, they don't care. It's
no,
like they feel untouchable and they might probably be for now. at least on this earth, because we know who rules this earth.
It has seemed, but then people come in like you and they start to shine light like yours. And then all of a sudden, there's the backlash. So that's where people start falling around you, like the gentleman that you mentioned. And in the 11th, I mean, I was just crying watching the 11th episode of Louder Than
Was
Love,
a
the
strong
last
one.
one. It was
Wow.
so powerful because you're like, this person on this date died. This person on this date died. And I'm just watching them all. And I'm thinking about how I watched that happen in the media out there. I was like, oh God, Kate Spade? Oh, well, Anthony Bourdain. What is going on? Like, and I had not made those connections, but intuitively, I knew, I mean, especially as a survivor and even having been forced to perpetrate as SRA, slave, I know how it works on certain levels. Somebody hits a certain threshold and they're taken out. And
Exactly.
so right now, the only people who are still standing, who are doing what you do, in my belief, are spiritually protected.
Well, I have to agree with you, because I have to tell you, if it wasn't for God, there is just no way I would be alive. There's just such a conjunction of, I want to say, good luck among bad occurrences, because it's just, even my wife, sometimes when we share stories, and war stories, as I call them,
Mm.
she says, you shouldn't be alive. Like, who gets swarmed by 10 people, here in Portugal, it happened to me, and get beat up with chairs, and doesn't even drop to the floor once. Who gets shot on 5 different occasions in his life, and they always missed. And it's just so crazy, because even the way it started, and I'm sorry, I don't want to carry away from the subject.
No, I think this is the subject because people are scared. They're scared to do what you do, and they're scared to join us, and they're scared to come out of the cult. And what we have something here that we found, and it's God and sincere prayer that is actually working for us. Like, I shouldn't be alive either, and I'll tell you a story if you want after yours. And so I think
Sure.
if we can tell people about how we've been protected, and then they can pray for protection from a sincere heart and intent, then
Yes.
then suddenly we're going to have an army of light that gets bigger and bigger.
We can
So
still counter a bit of this nefarious control opposition wave that has been going on for what, it has been 7 years. Oh, of course, it has existed forever,
I know.
but now it's controlling everything. The airwaves are completely coerced, and with that,
Almost. I mean, how are we on YouTube right now? You know what I mean? Like, we're
they
sliding.
still give us a small chance, a
Yeah,
small to fight back. So we should take it. No.
we are taking it. But I want to hear the story. I really do, because I think
Well, I hope that
brings
your
hope.
viewers don't mind. I'm very open. I still smoke cigarettes, and I like to smoke a cigarette with a story. Not
As
to be a bad influence with children and the younger ones. You shouldn't
okay,
smoke.
okay.
But
I hear that said. There is a disclaimer, and what I'm making up is that this is a really significant story, and and thank you for your willingness to be with me here and with ever who's watching now or later and share this story, because
no,
it's
likewise. I mean, I also admire what you do, and the courage that you have shown. All this that the work that you're doing, boots on the ground, almost nobody does. You
well, I
know,
do want to talk about that today if we can, because I'd love
we
for more
should.
people to join us,
I'm
and
very interested in
we'll
knowing
get
more
there.
about these things that you're doing, because you are out there actually putting yourself for people for the bad actors to come and find you directly, to come and try to scare you in the middle of the street. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it has happened.
Well,
I mean,
I want to talk some more, but I have to
right.
hear your story first, because these are the kinds of stories that I think give people the courage to try to get out there. So,
Well, you
yeah.
know, and you're completely right. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, no.
You know how they say that sometimes trauma travels through genes, and if
Yes.
something happens in your bloodline, it just you feel that pain somehow.
Yes.
Well, it's very curious, because the first time I was shot with a gun, obviously, I want to say I was 7 years old because it
Oh
was
my
before
God.
my brother was born. And I was sleeping next to my mother because my father was in the United States doing business. So I used to stay with her, obviously. Um, and it was a lost bullet fired by a civil guard, rural guard of the country where I used to live in, which is Costa Rica.
Oh,
And the bullet landed, I could say, maybe 3 inches from my head.
yeah.
And that was the first time that I had a near death experience. I was very young.
Oh my God.
Well, not the first time of a nearly death experience, but at least with a gun, yes.
Wow.
And the interesting parallel here, and it's a bit of a sad story, but as a family, as a bloodline, I'm trying to heal that part of us.
Yeah.
My grandma, from my father's side, was murdered
Oh,
uh,
grandma.
in front of him when he was 15, because a cop was chasing two robbers in San Jose in Costa Rica. And of course, he didn't follow protocol. He was shooting at them despite the danger of shooting someone else. And of course, my grandma just did this to cover my father. They were
Oh,
in the back seat of a car,
oh.
and that's when she got hit in the forehead.
Your grandmother took a bullet to protect her son.
Yes, to protect my father.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
No,
and
she's so
that's
brave. I mean, she
well, yes,
sacrificed her life in the battle. Oh my
yes.
gosh, that is awesome. But I mean, it's a tragedy. He lost his mother.
Of course, and
Yeah.
that traveled, that pain, of course, affected our relationship with him in a way because he was tortured for years.
He might have blamed himself. Yeah.
Ah, I'm sorry.
He blamed himself, like,
Yes,
uh,
of course, in a way, and he also it was such a story because he even had the chance. He was allowed to get into the jail cell of the cop. I don't know what context my father had at the time, but he was allowed to get some payback, and he decided not to do it.
wow. So he could have harmed or got retribution, and
Absolutely.
he was merciful.
And the policeman that did this obviously was completely destroyed by it. Not only
Oh,
because he was in jail, but he was a good guy. He just made a mistake.
oh
And
gosh.
you know, it's
Wow.
it's funny because people say, well, police officers are this and that. Well, I have lived both things because this guy killed my grandma by accident, but he killed her still, for
Yeah.
being reckless.
Yeah.
And then my cousin, the nephew of my father, is a police officer in the States.
Oh,
He
wow.
has now been promoted to detective, I think. Uh,
Wow.
but yeah,
That's
he's been in the force for 10 years, I think,
he's a
10 or
good guy.
15. He's a very good guy. I don't want to say his locations for obvious
Yeah.
reasons.
No. But there's good people in the police. So,
Yeah.
I can tell you a story about how we go to the Gates Foundation and what happened there with the police,
Mm.
but I want to come, I don't know if, so, I mean, thank you for what you shared so far. Like, you have this ancestral legacy of this bullets, and this, like, a murder, accidental murder, but also a sacrifice of a mother for her son, which was your father.
Exactly.
I mean, so she's a light warrior, as I think of it. And then so he's like covered with her protection, but also the grief, the trauma, the grief, and then that affects how he bonds or doesn't,
Yeah.
like protecting himself. He's in his shell or whatever happens there. So you coming from a line of warriors, and then you were 7, you had a bullet that almost, I mean, like almost killed you.
Mhm.
But what was it that deflected that, or somehow made it so that
Yeah.
you were protected again? Was that your grandmother from the other side? I don't know what you believe
That's
in.
what my mom has always said.
I'm kind of feeling it.
Yes, yes. Yes. Uh, Obviously, she was a fierce woman. Her husband abandoned her with 3 children,
Oh,
and she took the bull by the horns. Always worked hard, teach them how to be persons of integrity. At least, I'm very I admire what my father and my uncle did as far as being heads of the family, because they always protected everyone, and they always, in their own ways. My dad was a bit, with my brother and I, he was a bit tough, but I sometimes I think he should have been tougher. The thing is that
Oh,
I was living my own hell, and he was separated from that because I never shared it with him.
yeah.
And so he thought that the bad things I was doing were out of just debauchery and self gratification, when
Oh, yeah.
in the opposite direction, it was self harm and just running away from myself.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand. Well,
Oh,
I guess he had to some degree, because he also fought with alcoholism after that happened.
yeah.
But he got over it. Like, he never touched a bottle again, basically, after he turned 18.
Yeah.
Um, but it goes along those lines. And what you were saying about people being afraid of exposing themselves, putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is risky. Yes, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna be harassed. You're gonna be insulted. People are gonna make up lies about you, even about your family. This is something that you are never prepared for, because when you enter this, um, first of all, when I started, I wanted to remain anonymous,
Okay.
but
Know that. Wow.
yeah,
That didn't stay.
that was the goal. That was the goal. Unfortunately, what happened was that the mother-in-law of Chris Cornell, this woman, Tony Basiladis is her name, right? She's this Greek madame kind of person. She supposedly trafficked Vicky when she was young. This lady doxed me on Instagram for the thousands and thousands of followers of Vicky Cornell and Chris Cornell that I was, and this was in 2018, when people weren't really absorbing the fact that he was murdered yet. I mean, a lot of people were suspicious, but it wasn't widely accepted as it is now. And for me, what disappoints me of it being widely accepted is because it's widely accepted not for the right reasons. Um, for example, a lot of people are going with this thing of that Chris was making a documentary, right,
Yeah.
about
The silence.
sexual abuse, and to some degree, because I met Chester personally some 15 years ago, and spoke to him, and spoke to Andy Rourke, who was very close to Dolores O'Riordan, who was close to Chris as well.
Mhm.
They were onto something. Now, as far as this elaborate plan to make a documentary and present it at this festival or something, we don't know. There's
Yeah.
nothing
Didn't
that
really.
we can say with certainty.
Yeah.
But it is clear, and I can tell you, from the witnesses that I've had and the people, that all the evidence I've compiled, that they spoke with many survivors. They spoke with many people who were abused by the people close to them, and by the people in charge of the record label, of course, which happens to
Definitely.
be Mr. DG.
Yeah.
I don't know if we will be taken down just by mentioning that name, or especially if you live in Seattle, it's a bit touchy.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, well, let's say it. No, the,
Yeah,
the
David Geffen.
gentleman's name is David Geffen,
Yeah.
and I happen to have, because everything in my investigation connected in ways that are a bit super strange, because as I was uncovering all this, I befriended people that had family who worked for Geffen and things like that. Perhaps that's why they got to communicate with me, because obviously they saw in me a valid outlet, someone they could trust. Um, I have testimonies of people, personal assistants working for Geffen, catching him in the act of abusing children,
Yeah.
and
Oh, close the door next time,
threatened.
or next time knock. That was just,
That exactly. That's what I was
horrible.
talking about.
Yes,
Yes.
horrible. Like an eyewitness to pedophilic sexual abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And
How
completely powerless to do anything about it, because this
powerless,
guy,
helpless. There's nothing I can do. They're
nothing,
untouchable.
nothing. I mean, Geffen is a person that he will take himself down with everybody if he has to, because this guy, I would say he's a demon incarnate.
Oh,
The way he has lived his life and the way he has just pushed his way in since the days of how do you call it, this project, this CIA mind control project in California, um, where all these musicians used to live together: Jim Morrison, John Baez, even Frank Zappa. Um, I forgot
Mooney.
the name.
Yeah. I
Uh,
remember it,
but it was this military operation basically
yeah.
in which, because we all know that rock and roll was as beautiful as it is, and as much as talent and incredible angel-like voices it has brought to the spotlight, it started as a social engineering
Oh yeah, even
program.
the electric guitar, like even the formation of the vibrations of the notes on humans, like
Yeah.
and then of
Yeah.
course the frequencies that they're using. I mean, so yes, that's a good thing to know. These layers and layers of mass mind control operations. When so I'm going to bring it back to the personal, but is there, I mean, is it okay if we just go with the flow, or is there anything else about the stories of your protection that you want to mention? Because
No,
it's
we can go with the flow, but let's finish that protection part, because perhaps if you don't have children, it's easier to get involved in this.
yes,
When I started, I was single. I was actually on a kind of I was trying to be celibate because I was just done with dating. The way dating is now, I was completely done. I obviously had too many bad experiences in the music industry and the music scene and the art scene. It's not really people that are out there to really open up and love someone in a way that God wants it to be, right? So it's a scene that promotes a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, drug abuse,
using people
um,
using people.
sexual favors, all kinds of things that makes people makes hurt people even more hurt, and makes them in a way to hurt others.
Yep.
It's very toxic.
Yeah.
But if you're married, if you have children, yes, I will say probably think twice or prepare beforehand for a lot of things, and work in the security. You have to secure all your perimeter. We live here in a village that is probably 2,000 people, mostly old people, very beautiful,
Wow.
very secure. You see children playing outside at midnight and stuff like that, where you cannot see that in Central America or even the States nowadays. But nevertheless, I have a system in which right now I'm already making plans to buy some things to modify the doors, the main doors of the house, to make it almost fortified. Cameras are installed. There's weaponry in the house, heating in every room. My wife knows where they are.
Yeah.
There's things set up for emergencies.
Yeah.
Just in case, because like I tell my wife, if nothing happens, good. But if something happens, you want to have those things around you.
Yeah. So you,
And I would say work on that, and don't be afraid of if it's just you, Lucy. Obviously, you will always be afraid of someone close to you getting harmed because of what you do.
yeah.
But if it's just about you, and if you're a believer in God, especially, because I'll tell you that if you swear loyalty to God, and well, in my case, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, there is no way, even if you die, even if your time is up, that it will be in vain. It will be something that it will be part of history and part of the whole trajectory of this battle between good and evil, and the dethroning of the principalities that we're seeing. Well, it's not happening yet. They're actually yet to be thrown completely, but we're getting there. And in the end, they lose, not because uh, you can stop what is coming, or there is a plan, or there's a politician there doing signs with his hands and putting clues in a website. It's just not that. It's just that God gave us free will, and as free thinkers and free humans, we have been allowed to either accept evil or accept good in our lives. And if you die for a good cause, there's no bigger honor than that.
Mhm.
Obviously, we don't want our loved ones to suffer because of it, but that cause, what better reason to die for?
So thank you for your valor is how I see it. And it reminds me of two things. So one, just the prayer that we said in the beginning, extended to all of our loved ones, all of our family, all of our pets, all of our viewers, all of our listeners, that we are all protected because we are united now in this intention. And that to me is I want to name that explicitly today, and you're reminding me of that. And I really, again, I honor how you are looking at protection on all dimensions. So, and that
Exactly.
includes your choice of where to live, which I also have made this year of choosing not to reside in Seattle because this
Yeah.
is not a place for me to reside long term safely until, and I want to say it this way, until I can help take the cabal down here, which
Mhm.
will I, my prayer is that happens in my lifetime, but if it doesn't, I will die trying.
If-
And hopefully in a peaceful way, surrounded by loved ones.
Yeah,
Um, but
and if one dies trying, it will also count for the final victory. That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Every single effort counts.
So one other thing I want to say right now is because I was moved by what you said is that I do feel electronic weaponry that targets me.
Oh yeah,
And I can hear it as a high-pitched whine sometimes. Sometimes it's just almost like a pressurized difference or whatever. And
yeah.
it can be when I turn on two devices at a time or I go in a certain place. And I do the same thing every single time I hear that, basically, which is and for whatever reason, this is just what has worked for me is I think of this father protection of God, and I basically just say I'm a daughter of God. I am of God. I am protected by God, and whatever happens happens. Like I just give it all to God. And then the next thing that happens every single time is it stops. But if
Yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't and it took me out right then I'm just with God then. Like I just like either way, I'm safe. And somehow that just always, and so I guess I offer that to people who are being actively tech targeted and tech tortured. And
Yes, yes.
there's something about the level of belief and surrender that I mean, I'm 55 years old, so everything I've gone through has got me to this point. But
Mm,
that, if people want to be in the front line in some way, or even getting in there with the research, they're going to have to find peace with protection of themselves or letting go of an outcome because it is a dangerous
yes,
path.
yes,
It's not without its danger. So I think I'm glad we're saying that kind of in the beginning
yes,
as we
yes.
invite people to join us
Of
on our
course, of
adventure
course,
to talk
of
about
course.
what this stuff really is.
And
Yeah.
and 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 this is the thing. If you're not in the front lines, even if you only help by following, sharing content, telling your friends and family who are open to listening about these things, especially those of us who have been abused in any way as children,
Mhm.
they, all of us, first of all of us have to deal with certain consequences: addiction, self-harm, suicidal thoughts,
Yep.
even to some point, demonic oppression or demonic infestation and things like that, because
Yep.
some things sometimes attach to you as a result of the horrible things done to you or the horrible people around you.
Yep.
And even if you're just sharing or talking to people or telling your friend, you're already doing something about it.
Yes,
You
that's
don't
right.
have to be out there with a machine gun and saying, "Come at me," I'm a cowboy. I'm the new sheriff in town. Doesn't have to be that way.
Someday.
Exactly. You don't have to become Rambo or something like that. You can do it in many different ways.
That's right.
What matters is that you care about it. And
Mhm.
obviously, I was agnostic at some point in my life. Never an atheist because I just knew that, considering the things that I saw from the occult perspective, I always thought, well, if this exists on this down is lower frequencies, it has to be a result of opposing something that exists on higher frequencies.
Logic.
Yeah,
Logical.
and even as an agnostic, I was like, this is just to fit in. See my block, but that happens. Okay, there you go. You resist, or especially if you're trying to make it into the music industry and you want to be part of that clique, which is mostly 95% liberal or even 98%. You cannot go around with your Bible and your crosses, and people will just shun you away. And it's not that I steer away from God because of that, but that reinforced my steering away from God. Do I explain myself? I was
Oh,
already
yeah.
steering away. But the thing of being in the music and surrounded by these Wiccans, by these Freemasons, by this, just sheer, I would say, because there's a variety of people that really believe in the occult, or others that just do it for attention or trying to be a punk and rebellious and stuff.
Sure.
But surrounded by all that, rituals, the videos that I recorded, that I appeared in, the music videos that I appeared in Costa Rica, they all have occult symbolism in them. And at the time, even being a victim of SRA and mind control to some degree, I didn't realize. I didn't see anything wrong with it.
No, it's just so normalized, right?
Exactly. And I even saw it as kind of dorky, more than dangerous. I said, well, this is kind of cheesy and dorky, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect me. It's not my music video, so whatever. But yeah, I'd say that if you're not a spiritual person, hopefully someday you will be. But this is not about that. I understand that we talk to many people from all different upbringings, all different or beliefs, and want to isolate anybody.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that because, yeah, me talking about prayers and God, even as a father figure, it
Yeah,
does alienate
of
some
course.
people who are
Yes.
like, what? Like, so thank you for just like extending this invitation to everyone who, I mean, to me, it's like I care about children. I want them protected. And then anyone who's working for that, I want them protected. And then there's the question, well, how? How can they be protected in a way that works? And so I have a healing organization called SOAR Global, Support for Organized Abuse and Addiction Recovery. And many of the people that we work with can tolerate no religious connected language whatsoever at all.
Yeah.
And then, so then I'm doing a prayer or a focused intention that I imagine a field of love. The word love typically works for everyone
Yes.
around them. I say, great spirit or higher creative source, or try to find ways of describing this loving benevolence that can help protect them.
Exactly.
And but in 12 step as a recovering addict, in that paradigm, people they define their own experience of care. Basically, what is care? The care of God, but some people can't talk. So anyway, thank you. I wasn't sure about how that piece worked for you, and I know you have a
Yeah.
lot of diverse followers, but there tends to be a principle based, a principle based, almost like inspired ethic for people who want to protect children. They care about what happens, and I want
And
all of them to
that's
join me.
that's the point. That's the point that you just said is very important, because it doesn't matter if you're a Christian. It doesn't matter if I was a Muslim, which I'm not. Obviously, my politics are out there for people to see. But if there is something that we can all agree on,
Yes.
even if you are, I mean, I don't want to, again, I don't want to isolate anybody, but even if your beliefs are somehow permissive of certain things that shouldn't be,
Mm.
I think we can all agree that where we should draw the line is children.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your sex, your gender, your favorite color. Doesn't matter anything. we should all care about protecting children, women and men. And obviously, as men, we're supposed to be the protectors and women are supposed to be the nurturers. But if you look at it from a psychological standpoint, both things are very necessary for recovery now. So as you nurture the victims and teach them how to feel at peace again and how to find themselves despite the trauma, there's going to be men around you or even women who are really tough, protecting you, giving you that space so you can nurture that survivor, nurture that victim. We all have a part in this. It goes beyond politics. Me, as politics go, yes, I have my stance, but I don't support any party. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in the bipartisan system. I don't believe in paying taxes. I don't believe in big government. You could say I'm a libertarian because I believe in small government. I believe they should not meddle with in almost anything.
Yeah.
God already made the laws. God already made the commandments. And even if you don't believe in God, there is common decency.
That's
We
right.
all know we shouldn't
100%.
steal. We all know we shouldn't go after your friend's wife. We all know we shouldn't kill, rape, etc., etc. That's just like basic.
Yeah. Thank you.
And some people want to try to politicize this movement in saying, "Oh, it's just the conservatives trying to fix this problem," and it is not. It
That's
is
right.
not. And that's a mistake in the sense because a lot of today's conservatives were liberals 10 years ago.
I was.
I was. I was more liberal than who knows most of the liberals today. And it just happens that I realized that freedom only goes so far, you know. And when you have the total freedom to do whatever you want, you also dive into being a bit selfish, self-absorbed, and all these kind of things that lead you to a path of destruction that is very hard to come back from. You know, there's things that you do out of free will, even not the ones that were forced upon you. Yeah. That you do out of free will, that you always have in your head, you know, saying how was I capable of doing this and that.
Yeah.
In my case, thank God, I'm already free of those thoughts because I put my soul in His control. It was the only way I could make the voices shut down. Because there was always this thing of you're not good enough. Even if I was getting complimented by someone like you saying you're doing amazing work, you're doing this and that, you're not good enough, you're gonna fall, you're gonna sin again, you're gonna fall, you're gonna use drugs again, you're gonna start drinking again, you're gonna cheat on your wife, which I've never done. Things like that. You know, it's just that the demons trying to destroy you.
Yeah. So it's interesting how we're talking about how a practice, a spiritual faith practice or affirmation of belief is a protection against demonic doubt and interference. And then I mentioned electronic, targeting.
Even that. Yes, because that's demonic in essence too. The electronic
right.
devices.
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you, because I'm just riffing on this. Like, I have worked with people who are avowed atheists, and what they tell me is atheism is progress from being a Luciferian. Atheism is progress from being an active Satanist. And if people are trying to come out and they go, I'm coming out into, or agnostic, I don't know, or I don't believe in something God, but I'm not worshiping and I'm not calling in Lucifer. I'm like, wow, okay, but what does the trajectory of progress look like? And then a lot of times we can still agree on principled behavior and love. And so I'm like, okay, let's work here in the sphere.
In the common grounds, yes.
Because people can be so triggered by the word God, the word Jesus. I mean, they've been raped so many times by people dressed up by Jesus, or they've been, and it just, so it's like in the treatment realm, we have to get so, I don't want to say creative, but we have to get so attuned to what helps and what works. So what works for you, and you have a trajectory.
Exactly.
And as I'm learning about you, yours is like mine in certain ways in terms of addiction and kind of like going into whatever. And sure, influenced by my past, influenced by programmed compulsions, all of that's true and valid. But there comes a point where it's like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, am I going to go down that direction or that direction? And if I don't have any God to hang on to because God wasn't there, where was God back
Exactly.
there? So that's not
Because
I'm not a person of faith.
he
Then
wasn't invited. That was the thing. We weren't inviting him to come over. We were just depending on ourselves. We were all powerful, almighty. Everything depended on us.
mm,
And it was, fall after fall after fall after fall for years and years and years and years, in which you realize that the more you go into it, the more empty you become.
that was my
And
yeah.
there was always something missing, even when you were surrounded by your best friends, best friends, enablers, or whatever you want to call it, and you were with your at the time your significant other or whatever, the person that you liked or thought that you loved, and sometimes you are surrounded by all those people, and you never felt more alone.
That's right.
And it was like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right. How can I
right?
be feeling this much alone around? So that question of what is it that makes us feel home, whole, connected, those are questions I'm curious for people. And so I want to say I there's so many things I want to talk with you about. And I did write out an outline, and maybe some people are listening and thinking, well, when are they going to talk about, you know, so
Course.
I love that we've started with protection and kind of our willful path towards something good, like call it what we will, and we know what we're calling it, but that so and then that taking us into disclosure work and that taking us into pushback and that's taking us into spiritual growth and development, which
Yeah,
has enabled us to be alive and what we're doing right now. And then in looking at this topic of what's been done to humanity around truth, and because you were talking with Gabby about this and these waves of disclosure, these waves of controlled disclosure, controlled operations, psyops, to try to always protect certain things. And I
yeah,
believe there's a hierarchy of intensity. Like we never want to reveal this. All right, we're going to throw them some bait of
of
this,
course.
and they can have this all they want, but we're going to flood them with it, and
Exactly.
we're going to distract them, this, and so everyone's like, what the heck? I don't know what to, and then you get I'll speak for myself. I get a little truth and I'm like, oh, thank God. It's a little bit of truth. But there's all this over here that even this is like, it's feeding me, but not really soul food of like, let's help the children. Let's do it.
Exactly.
Let's do it with as large an audience we can get. Let's do it on the streets. So you were talking with Gabby about this first wave of disclosures and naming some names.
Yeah.
And I still have people who are like, oh, but so it's like, do we name names? Is that wrong to name names of other people? Then the second wave of disclosure, naming some names. And then the third wave is now. That's how I'm thinking of it. I don't know if that's
Uh-huh.
the right number of waves, but
I think, yeah, I think you're right. It's being more, well, obviously, if we go back pre 2018, there's other people that have been controlled the position, of course, since decades
yeah,
ago.
all time.
But
Yeah,
we're talking about the present timeline, that it's more
truth.
significant to us, the era of the unveiling of all these things, in which it just reached a massive audience, because before that it was very secluded, nobody knew about it.
That's right.
And even though YouTube didn't censor one thing in 2014, people weren't really talking about this as much as they were today.
No,
Obviously now it's become a subject in vogue, uh, if you want to call it that, because it's cool to know about these things. And a lot of the people that are now talking about them is this element of entertainment and
that's right.
drama. It's
That's
like
right. You can have
uh
it, but it's gonna be ghoulish,
cinematic.
entertaining,
Yes,
drama. Yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's almost becoming like like musicians when they become really old and they continue going on stage when they're 70 and they're just jumping around like they were 15 years old 60 years ago. They become a sort of a cartoon of themselves, a parable.
Yeah.
um, and that's that's the intention of control opposition, in my opinion, to make all these very serious subjects into something normalized, by sheer, cartoonish kind of storytelling, cartoonish presentations, cartoonish truthers. Because some people out there who are very popular and have millions of followers are just plain ridiculous. I mean, I cannot believe someone would take, for example, Russell Brand seriously. That's someone that I never, you know, seriously, like if you can sit down and watch 1 hour of this man babbling about nonsense, about whatever he thinks is love and freedom and truth, when he was attending Diddy parties 4 years ago. I mean, all power to you, but it's just you have to see beyond the words. Everyone can have a dictionary and sell you all those 20 British pound words like Sacha Stone does. They sound like, oh, they are so cultured, they know so much, they sound so stylish. I like how it sounds. But if you go and dissect what they're saying, there's no real substance in there. It's
Substance.
all substance, exactly. It's all a word salad,
Yeah.
uh, very cleverly crafted, because this guy obviously was Tavistock and all that.
Yeah.
So, these people are not dummies.
They have amazing
Exactly.
catchphrases. It's almost poetic, and it's like catch you and put you over here. And so thank you, because I feel on one hand afraid to name names, and on the other hand, and on the other hand, like there's a certain medicine in saying these are people that I see that are taking it over here, and these are people that are getting closer here. But where do we want to be? Like, and what does it look like when we find someone, as long as they live, haha, but you know what I mean, that is actually like right now, like of substance, like what are the people of substance saying? So we can say, okay, Sasha Stone, like been around forever, these creepy connections, and like maybe they're trapped and they can't get out, and that's the best they can do, is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that they're really diabolically actively trying to deceive you, like you. And if you, as Alessandro, stand up to him, which you did, then he's going to destroy you.
Exactly.
And
It threatens your life and things like that.
yeah, and suddenly you see this like raw, like, and I'm like, oh
Darkness.
shit,
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh, you
whoa,
were
like,
actually mean. I didn't saw that before.
yeah, super mean. So comes across as all love and light and da. But if you cross him, it's not
They
like,
change.
hey, dude,
Like,
let's get together. Let's have a conversation. Let's,
yes.
figure this out. Like for the children, it's like, oh no. And so that's when you showed that clip on the clip with Gabby, it was like, wow. Like, and I even said to my friend, that's not someone I'd like to be with in a dark alley. Like they don't have
No.
my back. And we have to trust the people that we're working closely with, because there's so much at stake. So it's like, okay. And then, David Icke is another one where I have absolutely credible information that he is a practicing horrific Satanist.
Fabian
And
Society too, no?
pardon?
A member of the Fabian Society.
Saving society, and just absolutely frontline controlled opposition, but back life at least, and who knows how much is co-conscious, doing horrific things. And I have credible information on that on Kathy O'Brien as well. And so David
Yes.
Icke's kind of the father of disclosure, and Kathy O'Brien's kind of the mother of disclosure. And then I have credible information that these are people that they're being puppeted, used, or they're puppeting themselves. They're not to be trusted. Off they go in terms of sources. Like, don't go there, folks. Don't elevate them. And then what happens is this next level disclosure, or even the current level, whatever you want to call these light warriors, how I experience you, but not you, but others at least. Like I reach out and I'm like, hey, you're featuring O'Brien and Icke, but I have credible information that they're offline, like, like not, no. And then what happens is they catalyze a betrayal response they don't want to have to process. So they don't want to believe me, or they'll go, what's your proof? Let's see a link, which I understand. I mean, I've been called a Satanist. I recently got,
Oh, me too.
all this crap. So sure, okay, let's have some proof, but the proof is credible allegations from people we trust, that are, so for me, that would be Jeanette Archer is a trusted friend,
Hmm.
whistleblower, and someone who risked her life and livelihood many times to just, it's all about the children. And people close to her started betraying her. She got
Yeah.
accused of all kinds of, so it's like we have to figure out certain people to trust. But okay, I'm trusting Jeanette. I love her work. I'm not trusting Ike. I'm not trusting Kathy O'Brien. And then when I try to, talk with people, they're like, just because Dave is the one that woke me up. So he's like a father figure to me in the disclosure world. And then I don't want to experience this father betrayal or this mother. How could I lose? Okay,
The
sorry.
thing, and this is great that you open with this, because this is how we actually try to open minds about this. First of all, there has to be a line drawn. We're not naming names because we're jealous of their numbers, or jealous of their reach, or how much money they have, because most of them have tons of money. It's about the compilation of history and actions and testimonies and symbolism that these people have around them. And their true intentions are usually out in the open. With David Icke, he has been very clever, because he's now positioning himself against people like Elon Musk and Alex Jones and Donald Trump. So he's playing this part of, I'm still the opposition,
Mhm.
despite being one of the first ones put there out in the open by MI6, you could say. He's the English version of what William Cooper was, who was a real one, in my opinion. Then you have, of course, Alex Jones replacing William Cooper in America, because they always try to put a main voice out there to control the narrative. Oh, Alex Jones, he was allowed to, well, he broke into Bohemian Grove. So that was his breakthrough. But you have to realize, if you actually do that and get away with it, you're going to be killed really fast. And then you look into the connections of Alex Jones. His father was associated with the CIA. His wife is a Zionist Jew, which, of course, we go we are entering the territory of not isolating anybody, but we have to also name things as they are. There's labels exist for a reason, and it's not about generalizing, because when we say Zionist or Islamist or Satanist, it's not every single one of them. There's Satanists out there that are just dumb kids, confused kids who don't partake in rituals, but they just think they're cool and
Yeah, they're
edgy.
rebelling. Yeah.
So they're not part of this wave of evil. I mean, in some way, they're enabling it, but without knowing. And intention matters.
Well, it's marketed everywhere as cool. Obey shirts, upside down pentagram. Like it's sold. So people buy it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they get to
And
it.
so we're exposing these people not because, I mean, if we name names like Sasha Stone or Kathy O'Brien, it's because the evidence to name them is sufficient enough,
Yeah.
in which we can actually back ourselves with the evidence. Because, for example, I've been threatened to be, Sasha Stone has threatened to sue me for 5 years. Not once I have received a cease and desist letter, a lawsuit from a British lawyer. Never. Why? Because there will be discovery. And the
Yeah.
problem here is that since I worked with him when I started this, because I had no idea who he was, I was like, okay, who is this guy? And when his recruiters saw that I was working in these documentaries, and they talked to me, and they saw something they liked, and they thought I could be groomed
Yeah.
to something very useful for them.
Mhm.
Of course, they wanted me in, and very soon, a month afterwards, I wouldn't say even a month, 2 weeks after meeting Sacha and attending the meetings of the ITNJ and New Earth, I said to myself, this thing is not it. I mean, whatever I'm trying to do with this, because I didn't know, total disclosure didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm trying to do, this is not it. It's not this guy. It's not these people. I cannot follow this guy. This guy is not a leader. This guy is a puppeteer. and a puppet at the same time. And, whenever Sacha wants to sue me, please do, because we're going to go to court and it's going to be ugly. And you can have all the money in the world, but I have the truth on my side. So that's why I'm able to do whatever I want in Portugal, because even his mother lives here. She lives I believe she lives in the northern region, but I'm not entirely sure. And he comes to visit her often.
Wow.
So, it will be very easy for him to get a Portuguese lawyer and put me to the test. But he doesn't. Why? Why is that? If his reputation is so pristine and he's this guru master, emboldened, light, being of light, as he says he is, why not put the truth out there on both sides and see what sticks?
Yeah.
So, people, please understand that we're not doing this from a negative vibration or negative energy standpoint. We're doing this because it's actually necessary, because these people are trying to get your attention for their own purposes, for their own profit, and at the same time, they are fulfilling the agenda of the actual perpetrators, and then they themselves might be perpetrators too. As far as I know, Sacha is, because I have a testimony about it, in which one of his ex-girlfriends tells me he did very nasty things to my daughter. So,
So if we stay aware and holding that, it's possible that people say things that don't turn out to be true. But when people make testimonies like that, if you're hearing it directly and it feels credible to you, then that's the reality that you go forward. You have a man that you worked with that you knew was a puppet and puppeteer. You knew he wasn't to be trusted from direct experience from him. Then you have testimony by someone who said that he incested a child. I mean, my daughter, I don't know how old the daughter was, I guess that's a question, but if he was in a father figure role, or, I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's horrific. And we, so to me, it's like, let's not be fooled by poetic words or a certain standing or a certain history. If we're hearing stories like that, we need to question and at least be asking questions of people in these positions of power. And that's what I've said is we need to ask these questions. If someone has questions about me, ask them.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. And that's the
yeah.
difference between you and I and these people. We are open to be questioned about the things that we have done in all these fields.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if someone is going to question me about the things that I used to do 15 years ago, of course, you're going to find a bunch of things that don't align with who I am right now.
Sure.
But of course, I was a completely different person. I wasn't aware of many things that I'm aware now. And I myself was running away from everything. So,
so there is a question of redemption.
exactly.
So that leads me to, just because I've been trying with all my might to figure out how can we get a critical mass, like a wave to bring truth and just raise the consciousness. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to have unity across religions, because
In a
the
way, yes,
largest
yes.
group that I know of that's trying to push for truth are Christians. However, there's so many more people who are not Christians, and if we can't work together, we don't have a critical mass. So
Exactly.
somehow,
Exactly.
we've been kind of trying to address that. But
it has to fall away from religion, because religion, it cannot be a prerequisite to form part of the movement, but integrity and values and a certain aspect of justice need to be the common ground.
Yes.
So obviously, you can be Jewish or you can be Islamist, but you will be forced to denounce Muhammad if that's the case, because obviously, and that's a conflict that a lot of people in Islam have. How do you reconcile being against child abuse while you yourself proclaim that this man was holy, a man who married a 6-year-old girl? So and this is touchy, and that this can offend some people, but it is the truth. We cannot be offended by the truth. We can only try to digest it, and if it affects our core belief system, then it means that our core belief system needs to be shattered in a
Yeah,
way.
we needs upgrade. We needs to be in reality that can protect children. So it becomes principle based about protecting children, and so how do we unite around that, and how much do people have to give or change? So I want to talk about some of the street work.
Yes.
I can, because this it's like, how formal is this transformation going to be? Do people, like, if someone wants to come to my organization to get treatment,
Uh-huh.
they have to become a member. It is a
Uh-huh.
private membership association. That
Uh-huh.
is the same organizational structure as the Bar Association, the American Medical Association. It's a legal structure and entity in good standing. It's not for profit. And it is outside the tax system.
Okay, perfect.
So that's one of the benefits of a private membership association. And a lot of groups, at least in America, are forming PMAs, or land trusts. They're getting outside of the IRS control, and it's
Exactly.
fantastic. And people have to align with our mission, our values,
Of course. Of
in order
course.
to become members. It's not super complicated, but so that's a treatment organization that's, we're relatively small. We're talking about a global movement to,
Yes.
and so at some point, if we can get away from the controlled opposition, the kind of the godfather and godmothers, and then the next level people, we can talk about and name some names there. I would argue Sacha Stone might be sort of in both camps, because he's still out there, right
He's
now.
trying to revive.
Yeah.
It's like a vampire that never dies, because you could argue that for a time he was there silent, just waiting to creep him back. And now he's doing these tours in America and buying land in Tennessee. I heard he bought a bunch of acres in Tennessee.
Yeah, so
So
what's
who knows
happening are
what?
these communes, like, it's just, these are, I mean, so a lot of people are trying to buy land or create kind of eco communities, some off the grid stuff that I'm seeing happening in America, kind of like you're talking about your village, like they're creating places that are safe for kids, basically.
Exactly.
And so I want these places to unite, and maybe some are this religion and some are more, we're like, whatever they are, like their principles are, they may be trying to care for the earth, care for their children. Okay, so it's like, how do we get more numbers? And so this, I sort of lost my train of thought, because I'm trying to hold a vision. So this old idea of, oh my gosh, this organization with Sacha and these people, this guy's exposing the dumbs. Sasha's exposing, they're having this, what was it called? I want to say
ITNJ, the
ITNJ.
International Tribunal for Natural Justice.
That's right. I'm thinking Myers-Briggs. I'm like, no, that's not right. I know it says tribunal. So everyone's like, yay, there's a tribunal. We're going to get him, and and it looks like a court, and they're having actual
Yeah.
survivor testimony. It's like, wow. But you were on the inside of that, and you knew this is not it. So it takes true-hearted people to go and meet with people and actually be there in person to bring it and speak the truth. And then it falls apart. So we get rid of the ones that are actually farces or, controlled oppositions. But then what are we going to have instead? What is going to happen instead? Like, what is the vision? Is it a TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission? Is it another tribunal that's actually good? It's some kind of a global effort, or is it come from grassroots, from organizations, which I could talk about more? So I'm just really curious about that piece of the vision of, and maybe I'm premature, like maybe we have to take out more of the density in the middle that's distracting us to get
Of
the critical
course.
mass, and then more people will come up with what it's going to look like.
Well, it is a very complicated conundrum, because we're talking about divisions and lines that have been drawn for centuries.
I know.
We're trying to unite a groups of people that have been at each other's throats for a long time.
I
And of
know.
course, what better purpose to do it than helping children and the
Yes.
most vulnerable, of course.
Unite should
But
unite everyone. Yes.
yes, but for some people, even that purpose, which on paper should be like humanity's priority, because if you think about it, the way this world is diseased and full of evil and full of just violence, and for the most part, at least that's what we see on the news, right? Because when we live our lives, we actually don't see that as often. It's strange.
No.
If you decide to live your life and surround yourself with the people that you love, it's like you're living an alternate reality. And that's also part of it, because even though you inform yourself about these dark subjects, or you dedicate your life to it, as you do and I do, we also need to draw a line and live our lives and try to be happy and love and be loved, as you said. And just realize that parallel to all this fight and all this war, we have this side of our life that can be completely almost separated from it, unless of course someone is threatening your family, or which it happens every once in a while. But the happy moments, those happy experiences, the moments that really make you smile and realize that you want to live this life despite everything else, that's still there, and that should always be there. This is very important for the people that want to inform themselves about SRA and mind control and abuse and all these things that are horrible and even traumatizing to hear about. If they're traumatizing to hear about, imagine being there. But it should tell you something, that the people that were there are the ones that are actually pushing back, despite coming back to places in which you might have some triggers and memories, like you being there in Seattle. I was in Costa Rica a month ago, and I didn't have a good time. I mean, I had the chance to do a lot of self introspection, self questioning, and things that I wasn't able to do with my happy life here next to my wife. I needed to taste a dose of loneliness and misery, in a way, to realize how much I was giving up if I was to change the way I live, if I was to pursue empty things that I used to like, or for example, just being in Costa Rica, I told my mom, who is a wonderful woman, it's just that Costa Rica doesn't sit well with me. It harms me to be here because of the things that happened to me there. And my mom said, I know, I just know you're just better off in Portugal because that's your new life. And that's why when you said that you were coming back to Seattle and all that involves for you personally, it touched me, because I just experienced it, and it's not easy. It's something that really puts you to the test.
Yeah.
Because you even are driving, and from one moment you're on Uber, and from one moment to the other you see this house or you see this alley, and you remember something.
Oh my God.
That is you even remember the smell. You remember things that are very vivid.
Yes, I'll tell you. I want to tell you a memory. So I'm driving down here, and I used to eat out a lot of fast food. I used to eat a lot of, comfort food that was not good for me in Seattle. And then I gradually, food, sex, money, relationships, all that stuff was compulsive, out of balance. Here, acting out my trauma, trying to feel better, trying to have control. So I worked on all of that stuff. And when I get stressed, the go-to is food and comfort food still. And so I'm driving here and I'm like, I want to go to Taco Time. And some part of me is like, oh my God, their food's filled with nanos. Like, don't go there. And it's probably cannibal, and I'm like, well, I haven't really heard that about Taco Time, but who owns it? Oh, I don't have time to look. And I'm like, I want to go there. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go there. If I die, I'm going to die of Taco Time. So I go to Taco Time.
Whatever happens, happens then.
And red meat. Like, sorry, I can't be here, Alessandro. Yesterday so I get this this burrito and Mexi fries, which are tater tots. And so I pull over and I'm eating them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is by a Red Lion Inn. And I was trafficked in a Red Lion Inn when I was 10 years old. And I wonder if that was the one. And so I was like, holy, is that why the spirit has brought me here to this Taco Time? So I eat my food. It's delicious, whatever else it does to me. I drive over, not that I'm advertising Taco Time. I'm sure terrible, but Anyway, they were nice. I go in and I'm trying to get a feel. Is this the place? Because I have so much memory loss. I have brain damage from
Of
electrocution when they're trying to
course.
make me not remember.
Of
And so
course.
I go in there and I'm like, was this it? And I'm talking to the woman. I'm like, I'm looking, it's like 2 stories, your windows look out, and there was like a game room. And so she's showing me where to go, and I'm taking pictures and I'm comparing it to this memory I have. So I'm going to go into a memory. So a bit of a trigger warning potentially. So I am on a trip with my dad. It's a business trip. So I'm 10, he's, in his 30s. And we stay at the Red Lion Inn somewhere on the I-5 corridor down between Seattle and Reno, because we stayed at
Uh-huh.
a series of hotels. And the
Uh-huh.
memory is that I am overcome with lust, even though I'm 10. I mean,
Mhm.
I used to have these just complete overwhelming with sexual like urges, 8, 9, 10. And so my dad had to leave to go on business, and he told the staff to look out for me and left me alone at the hotel all day. And he
Yeah.
left. And I had this overwhelming urge to be naked and go and open the curtains of our room, and that businessmen were going to come. And
Mhm.
so yesterday, I'm like, is this, I could see the windows. They opened into this courtyard area outside, and there was a pool. So if you were at the pool, you could look up and see that there's a naked child standing in the window. Like,
Of course.
and I'm like, I think this was it, but I'm not
Uh,
sure. And so
uh-huh.
but I'm feeling like shit, which is why
Yeah.
I'm compulsively wanting taco time to kind of stuff my feelings.
Of
And as far
course.
as I've gone with all the work I've done, sometimes I lose, you know what I mean? I don't just sit there and meditate and get the memory and write about it in a journal and process it. Sometimes I'm like, nope, I'm stuffing it today. I guess I'll share it now and I'll share it later and I'll process the emotions. It's so frustrating to not know exactly what happened where, but I
Yeah.
have a lot of facts. It's a red line. I know the words. But so just honoring, like, thank you for being touched by how challenging it is when you're a
Yeah.
survivor to
Of,
live, try to function. And leaving Seattle was one of the best decisions I've made for my healing.
of
Um,
course.
Going back to Costa Rica, if you were abused there or bad things happened there, or you did things that, you have this dense, and it connects to your body.
The
Like,
air is heavy,
yeah,
it's like everything. The whole energy gets transformed into something that it's like here, there's not so much weight. The weight
yes,
is gone. And
yes,
it's just that it's heavy because, like you were saying, you have these pieces of valid memories, and then you have this empty space, these blank spaces, these holes,
Mhm.
which kind of prevent us to tell the story completely and actually, well, expose the whole ring, you
Yeah,
could say.
it's people
Yes,
say it's not forensic evidence if you don't know if this is the right hotel. Like, how are we going to
right.
go? Let alone the fact that I'm 55, so that was 45 years ago. Like,
Yeah,
so that's just me trying to do my memory work today, having worked in the field for decades, having an advanced degree in psychology, social work, and yet the challenge of doing all this. So part of why I'm saying this, though, is I actually want to relate to the non-survivors that you're talking about, people who didn't go through sex trafficking as a child,
mhm,
but who are just trying to get through their day with their own density and their own compulsions and their own bad memories from traumatic childhood they had when they weren't sex trafficked, but they were abused,
exactly.
neglected emotionally, they had alcoholic parents.
Exactly.
And
Because
so
we all
then,
have almost everyone has something bad happen to them when
yes,
they're children,
yes,
sadly.
yes, everyone. So then it's like, okay, how do we ask people to take on more when they're already barely hanging on themselves? And that's the thing. So it's like, I want the movement to be inclusive, but it also has to somehow honor the heaviness of the brave people who are trying to join this army of light workers. Yeah, okay, I want to try to do what I can, and I'm a survivor, but I have to, because if I don't do this, my life is meaningless and I don't get well. So
Of
that's why
course.
I'm doing this. Like, if I
Of
could have
course.
gone the easier road, I'm sure I would have taken it. Like, but
Yeah,
I
me too.
couldn't. I bottomed out. I had to do truth. Otherwise, I was going to die. And truth has taken me here. But
Yeah.
people are traumatized. And I've blasted people with my stories. I mean, what I shared in Sedona, I mean, some of the crap I've shared in my Substack blogs, it's so dense. And I had to go into dense places to remember it and even write it down. It's been a tough, tough year. But thank you for people even hanging in there and trying, and how how do we invite people to this movement without traumatizing them, with the stories that are
or
too
or or hurting their feelings for whatever it may be, because I guess one could argue that, okay, we're gonna say, well, we're gonna join together to fight this with this targets in mind, and this is what we're gonna focus on, and we're gonna stray away from these subjects, these arguments, these divisive things like religion, politics, even sports, I guess, like the things that you're not supposed to discuss about in birthday parties. But I think that's almost impossible, because when you are working so closely with people, you naturally get to know each other, and you have to talk about where do you come from, why are you here, why do you believe what you believe in, and the thing is about, because triggering and triggers is like, it goes hand in hand with us, right? There's things that no matter how strong we are or how recovered we are, I can tell you in all honesty, there's things out there that still trigger me, even though I feel stronger than ever. And I guess that it boils down to us trying not to be selfish, trying to put us in second place, and realizing that the priority is the survivors, the children that are still going through it, the children that will go through it, and also the parents, because we are trying to inform adults as well, so they do a better job at protecting their children, and even the children in their neighborhood, because it's a lot of cases of abuse and trafficking and pedophilia and all these horrible things get solved or get investigated because an outside source saw something and said something. So it boils down to that. If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
And for that, you have to be informed to some degree on what to look for.
That's
what
right.
are the weird behaviors? What are the tales of certain people involved in this nefarious business?
Yeah.
And they usually have this ability to just camouflage and to not be seen and to pass as regular people. But if you really know what to look after, it becomes almost like an allergic reaction. You are around someone that is involved in these things, and you immediately feel this recoil, this thing,
Something off.
something off. And my wife is always amazed, because every time that I tell her that guy is dangerous, that woman is trouble, this and that, and the first time I met them or see them, and my wife says, "Oh, come on, don't be like that. You're always trying to read everybody and doing the body language thing and this and that." And I'm like, okay, let's talk in 6 months. And 6 months later, something happens, and my wife is, "Wow, you were right, and you told me, and you warned me, and how do you know these things?" And I'm like, well, I'm trusting my gut feeling, because my gut feeling is 50-0. It has never lost.
Wow.
And when I've decided to not listen to it, I always end up regretting it, because it comes back to bite me in the ass. So, you know, and that gut feeling, you could say, oh, it's my intuition, it's my sixth sense, or is God, whatever you want to say it is, it's you. Where my role here, you. I don't know if you identify as a Christian. It makes no difference to me as far as me working with you or liking you or respecting you as a person. I am a Christian, but as a Christian, I'm taught to respect everybody, and I'm taught not to be jury, judge, executioner. As much as the temptation that is sometimes, because it is a temptation. My real Christian teaching is to be humble. And in my role, I'm not a priest. I'm not a missionary. I'm not, certainly not a Jesuit. Ew. Uh, but my role is as a fighter to just protect and defend innocence. That's what I believe it boils down to. Because if we protect and cherish innocence in this world, everything would change overnight. Abuse creates abuse in many cases. It takes a lot of courage. And I don't know if we're a minority, those of us who are abused and actually fight back and make a stand against it, because many sadly become perpetrators themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why I see this as a pandemic, a cancer, because for every child that is raped, there's going to be a certain amount of perpetrators being created. So that's why I think it's the most important thing in this world, to fight against that, because that naturally would create a better environment for everybody. If we just focus on protecting the children, in 30 years, we would see a great improvement.
Oh, I so agree, and thank you. And I I would be interested in talking about my experience with Christianity, and I almost want to do a whole other show about that. And I have great affinity. We'll just put it that way. So I want to, but I want to come back to, because I think you're onto something so vital in terms of who we're calling to join us, if you will. Because even for the people that I worked with that are active atheists, saying this is progress from being a forced Luciferian or a forced Satanist, perpetrator, programmer, all that, like, and then atheism sometimes goes to agnosticism when people are asking questions, and it's not like I'm trying to groom people into one result. I want people to be safe and protected, and I want people to join me. And so there's like two things you said. One was your gut instinct, because all those people I'm talking about, whatever they call themselves in religion or not, they are survivors. So they had to listen to their gut in order to
Yeah.
survive. And so they have that. So listen to that. And then, I mean, if they find their way to me, they're going toward good. I mean, that's just how it goes.
Mhm.
But then the other thing is to guard and protect the innocence. So if people can connect to their gut and it brings them to our purpose, which is guard and protect innocence, then come on aboard, like, now. Like, we need you, the kids need
Yes.
you yesterday. And I so agree. People go from these traumatic injuries and they go to fight or flight or freeze. I mean, this is a polyvagal theory, which I believe in, and freeze or fall apart or whatever. But in the frozen, the freeze, then they can just be fawning and just like, oh yes, whatever, please don't hurt me anymore, and I did this, and I become complicit because I couldn't stand up anymore. I would have been dead. Then I become compliant. Okay, compliant, complicit, and then I'm forced to co-perpetrate. Okay, yeah, and this whole design is to make me perpetrate on my own. And eventually, without someone right there, I become an autonomous or chainless slave. And then I become an agent of evil, like, and
Yeah.
of the puppeteers. And so for me, I dismantled that, like, one by one, second by second, moment by moment, year by year, freedom by freedom, layer by layer, to get however free I am now. And I am a fighter. That is my lineage. I am a female
Very
person,
good. Yeah.
but I'm a fighter. I'm not ultimately a peacemaker. I want to
Okay.
fight for children and innocence, even though I want everyone to join us in this fight. I want it to be a peaceful revolution, if you will, revolution.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to take up arms and guns if I can help it.
Of
Um,
course, as a
and
last resource, I guess, for
yeah,
defending children,
yeah, I would do it. I
I
would.
would do
I
it too.
absolutely would. I want to be like your grandma and not over the kid and take the
And use
bullet.
yourself as a shield. Yeah,
Yes, that's the honorable thing for adults to do. So,
exactly.
so if
It's
we,
almost an obligation.
it
Almost
is,
an
it
obligation.
at
It
this
is.
point, and this is what one, my friend Jeanette Archer said, there are no more innocent bystanders. If you are an adult and you are a bystander at this
She's
point, you are
completely right.
complicit with the evil agenda.
She's completely right.
So,
And at the very least, because I know that for some people it's so scary and it's just so shocking, they almost paralyze themselves with fear or with sadness. At least I gotta tell you, in my mom's case, she's a bit like that because she knows about the abuse. She doesn't know who did it, doesn't know the specifics of it. In part because I wanted to protect her from, the guilt, because there's some associations there, obviously, that she doesn't need to know more than what she knows, in my opinion, because she's not a fighter. She's not a person that is going to take arms. That's not who she is.
yeah,
She's a nurturer.
yeah,
She has all my life. She has tried to protect me or tried to get me to get better. in the best way she knows how to do it. Obviously, we are not born with all the knowledge in the world on how to deal with these things. We just go by, trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, especially as parents. I'm not a parent yet, but I suppose that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
But, for example, in my mother's case, she's not out there sharing my links or stuff like that, or talking about it in social media. But she goes around telling her friends what I do for a living. She's always proud.
Proud of you.
She supports what I do. If I send her something that I tell her, hey, I really need you to listen to this because I think it's important for you to be informed about it. Well, first of all, she always asks me, is it about children? Because she gets too affected by it. And I understand why. She was never abused as far as I know. So for her, it's just like this altered reality in which she doesn't want to believe this actually happens. She knows it happens. She's destroyed by it, but she's just not the fighter type like you are. There's just, we have different roles.
Yeah.
Now, a different thing is knowing fully about it, or even knowing that someone is doing it around you or in your neighborhood or in your city, and denying it or being an enabler, like saying, if I wash my hands and I don't talk about it and I cover my eyes and my ears and my mouth,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be safe, and it has nothing to do with me.
Okay. So
It's a fine line, isn't it?
it is, because what I want to say is when I get on my, fighting track, and I love that part of myself, but I also recognize watching your videos Louder Than Love, it shocked me awake about Chris Cornell and Chester, because it's like I heard those stories and then I just went numb and I just kind of carried on. And I just couldn't hear it like for so long, because and I don't know the extent to which the Seattle grunge artists were pulled into satanic ritual abuse. Like, I'm curious about their
And
handlers.
we talked about doing something about that, right? Doing some research, and I would love to work on that with you on a more general space of how that whole scene came to be, because people say, oh, it was random, it was like a very organic thing, but it's kind of hard to believe to what degree it was organic, because you know that whenever these entertainment people see something of value growing, they immediately send their
Yes,
people to infiltrate.
yes,
Infiltrate.
yes.
And for example, I know from a good source that Andy Wood was taken out, so Eddie Vedder, who was a plant of the industry, could take his place.
Ah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And,
So,
and
so
and we're talking about 1989.
yeah,
That's when
89.
he died. Yes.
Right. So I honor everyone trying to do the best they can to help. I want people to do more, and that's a little bit contradictory. Um, and I recognize people get traumatized into freeze, so they can't act. They're frozen, they're terrified. They do what they can. And I have layers of that within me. So I can fight in one area, but this other area, I'm doing nothing. I
Mhm.
relate to that around my own family. If I could name more names, if I could, but then someone will be hurt and I'm still not all the way, so it is very complex in terms of I don't know of any active child sexual abuse that's happening in my family. Otherwise, I would report it.
Of
Um,
course. I will do more than report it, but I
yeah,
get what
you
you
would, right.
Yes.
I mean, I
Yeah,
would, I would move toward intervention to the best of my ability, and I have.
exactly.
And at the same time, I wonder, am I doing enough? So that is always my prayer. Should I be doing more? Even, going to the police, however, the police were there. So I was at rituals, satanic circles where Black robe people in South Puget Sound were strangling and I'm sorry, it's trigger warning, this is horrible, but we're raping and strangling women as part of the calling in the demonic forces. It wasn't really super religious, if you will. It was more, I mean, yeah, it was Satanist, but it was more energetic. Like they wanted power. It was power and greed. Like I've got friends who are survivors from like heavy SRA, other which were non-Catholic, Catholic SRA. They're actually different. The focus
Yeah,
is different. In Pacific
of
Northwest,
course.
it was satanic, but it was more energetic, money, greed, power, and pornography
Uh-huh.
rings and trafficking rings. Like that
Snuff.
was more the focus. It wasn't so like ceremonial or so. Anyway, the point is, and I'm sorry to go into that darkness, but we do sometimes in order to try to raise awareness.
Oh, we need to
So
talk about it.
yeah, so
Yeah.
in 1984, I'm 14 years old. I'm at satanic rituals. Women are being strangled, and it's then I was used in the orgies, and there were police there.
Of
So
course.
that piece about just out your family, which might mean the children of your family are tortured and killed, or go to the police. Like for a survivor like me, even coming back into the city, and I'm dealing with fresh triggers. It's like, all right, manage. Like technically, I shouldn't really be in Seattle alone. I should be with a loving person. But right
Yeah,
now, I don't have that person, so I'm here by myself. I'm, doing some things, and I'm leaving. I don't live
of
here,
course.
but I
Of
want to
course.
expose what's happening here. So in 1984, I was involved. So suddenly I'm like, what if I knew some people in the Seattle grunge scene who might have been, or the handlers, they might have
Yeah.
been there, or I saw them at, and so because I don't have all my memories back from that period, in fact, the reason I left Seattle a year ago was because one of my perpetrators, and I will name this name, David Reichert, was running for governor of Washington State. And everywhere I went, there's pictures on people's lawns of his name.
Oh
And
my.
I was going insane.
Of
And I
course.
was like, what do I do? Do I go to the police? He's running for governor. Do I call the papers? I felt terrified and I had to get out of the city. And so I'd always wanted to do the van life and I had a dream and I sold the house and I bought the van and I left. But part of leaving was because I was catalyzing my fight
Of
and
course.
I just, and it's like, I don't want to do anything rash. Like it's time to just get some space with this and process this from a distance. And right before, and I
But
was
you
trying to
did the
find,
best thing. You did
yeah,
the
I was
best thing.
trying to find someone to interview me.
Yeah.
Um, so that takes us to kind of this next layer of survivor whistleblowers or survivor educators. And there's a difference between being an educator and saying, I'm going to talk about things that happened 40 years ago
Uh-huh.
that are, that everyone should be aware of,
Uh-huh.
versus 40 years ago, that guy raped me at a ritual and now he's running for governor. And we need to stop it. Like, do you see the
Exactly.
difference between, yes,
Exactly.
let's talk about things that happened in the past versus
Exactly.
still happening? That man is involved and we need to stop it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that's,
The urgency and the seriousness of it all, well, the urgency is what really takes over because one thing is talking about, oh, this happened 40 years ago, not naming much names, not giving much locations, but talking about what you saw and what happened.
yeah,
And another thing is this person that it's everywhere and it's known in the mainstream media, he has tremendous power and influence, did this to me and many others, of course, and many others that are probably watching this. And where do we go from here? Because this is a person that, if elected governor, if this person did this 30 years ago, what is he capable of doing once he has the whole the keys of the city, or the keys of the state? You
yeah.
know,
And but I don't want to be pessimistic, but I'm going to be pessimistic for a little bit. I mean, I'm
okay,
going to be, I guess you could say, be the black pillar a little,
okay.
a little. And I
They
know,
call me that all the time, so
yeah. Okay,
please
so
take my place.
so let's have some black pill moments, and we'll have
Yeah.
to decide how long we go because we've been at this for 2 hours, and I'm sure I could go on and on. Um, so
Oh, in regards to that, so you don't feel like contrived. How about, because this has been a wonderful conversation, and we have been, I think we have successfully branched out to these different kind of things that people don't really focus on, but it's important to bring more people to the table, right? So this is like a great introduction,
okay,
or for, in my opinion, like the way this is the first time I participate in a podcast or a conversation about SRA and mind control that has touched all the bases from the ground up, in a way that is not rushed or forced, or like
yeah,
we have we have a good rhythm going on here, is what I want to tell you. So that's really good.
right on.
How about, this is like the introduction, and we do like this series on your channel And on my channel, I get to interview you and dive more into your history in Seattle and your organization and your whole experience in healing and progressively becoming this fighter for the cause. Because that way, obviously, I want for people to know about your organization and who you are and what you have to add to the movement, because it's important. Every single survivor is important. But in this case, with you inviting me to your channel, I think we're also doing something that is more of a shared experience in between you and I.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do it in a way that is very educational, but at the same time very humane and very informal in a way, because
Informal.
we don't have anything planned, people. We don't have papers here. I don't have sticky notes here on my other monitor. Nothing's going on. But we're just going through the motions and just being people talking about real experiences. And I think that being that sense of being genuine, it's lacking a lot in this movement. So I think, how about that? We do this as an introduction, and then whenever you can, I come back. We do my channel next time, and then we can do this once a week or twice a week, however you want, if you have time.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. I
So
love
we're not
talking with you.
pressured by time and thinking, oh no, the 2 hours are gone and we didn't even talk about these people. That will come later. So
Okay.
people are already, people are prepared.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Great.
So maybe we can hold the black pill.
You can go with the black pill if you want, and we can close with something else. But
Okay,
just for people to know that we're not gonna cover everything that you announced in
yeah,
now, because
in one talk a couple hours.
yeah,
Okay, well
but
then
there's time. There's more time than life, they say, no?
I love that. That's so I'm from Seattle and kind of this rigid time thing. And when we were talking, you're like, let's do live. I think we need 2 to 3 hours. I was so shocked, but then I thought, oh, Europe. Oh, thank God for Europe. Like they're so chill in so many ways. Time for siesta. Like it's a way of respecting the complexity of organized extreme abuse and the depth of what we're trying to do to connect across time and space. And so
imagine doing this and having just have an hour to do it.
You just couldn't. And there's certain anxiety, but I also respect, like, people are busy, so they don't necessarily have time to listen to all this. So I'm curious, because we did this on Zoom. We couldn't get Substack to work today. Maybe in the future we'll figure that out, because they help make little clips. Because this is a huge investment for people. But I'll summarize with what I was saying, and then I won't introduce tons of
Sorry
new
for the
topics.
interruption.
No, don't apologize. I love what you said, and I feel it too. And so, but I did want to tie into this event that we're doing this week, because it brings it to the whole warrior thing, to being on the street. So Black Pill. I did not. I'm naming Dave Reichert here. He lost for governor of Washington State, but the truth is, I'm not sure which candidate was worse. The one that I remembered from 1984, or the one who actually won on purpose, as intended, and his role in the pandemic, isolation, genocide policies, and so we're in trouble here in Washington State. We're in trouble in Seattle. There's a fascinating thing that's happening that's being called the Rattle of Seattle, and I'm really questioning who's behind it, pulling what strings. Is this another whole drama controlled thing over here? Even though it involves Christians that hope, standing up, it says don't mess with our kids. There's the trans thing that comes in there. It's not okay to be gay. And while everyone has their opinions on those topics and their experiences, that is so provocative for this city. And literally, we have people going to city council just shouting, 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 shouting. And so right as I'm trying to plan my, everybody who has a gut sense that we need to stand and protect children, please, let's go over here. We're going to expose the elite pedo elite class in Seattle. Let's start with Bill Gates, that was on Epstein's plane 37 times. Come join me. now all of a sudden there's this another flare over here that's getting all the press and attention, if we're getting any. And so it's so frustrating, but also it's like, okay, these are not stupid organizations. These are not stupid people. They're going to
No,
pull out all the stops. And I have to have realistic expectations. I'm not doing this for an outcome. I'm doing this. So next Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time at Bill Gates Center. Melinda bailed on Bill and Melinda Gates Center. Now it's just the Bill Gates,
of
foundation.
course.
Um,
I think she divorced him it was more of a PR move, but yeah,
yeah,
you
and
know.
cheeky. I mean, that whole thing is just like, okay. So, but regardless, the Bill Gates Foundation, 11 a.m., we're having a rally. And how many people are going to be there? I know at least two. So my boots on the ground on the streets mentor is Timothy Lastly. Timothy has been to the Gates Foundation. Last count, it was, I want to say, what, 214 times?
Wow.
Like, this is a man who gets up, gets dressed, gets his bullhorn, gets a wagon, fills it with his stuff, goes out there, stands out there. He plays stuff. He speaks to he tries to educate passersby. And it's been a little tough because he has been very, very inspired by Alex Jones.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So Alex was he initiated him into the wake up, if you will, which is it. I mean, that is a powerful moment for a man.
Well,
It's,
yes.
oh my
And
God.
I'm gonna interject there a bit.
Yeah.
Alex was part of my waking up process too.
Yeah.
It just so happens that we don't know who is controlled at the beginning, but later on it becomes painfully obvious.
Yeah, for some and not others. So just honoring, like, you know, we've tried to illustrate what we know, but so that's what inspired him to get out there. He stays out there. So when he did it on his 200th time, we had a celebration in Seattle. Like, everybody come on out, and 200 times this man has stood here for the city on behalf of the city and said, this is not right. What this
Mhm.
man is doing is genocide. Kids need to be protected. So he's taking that father role and protective. And we had 3 people come. So there's 5 of us in a city the size of Seattle.
Mhm.
And I was looking at these 2 men that came, and there was a woman who came and she left right away. So we have Tim and myself, 2 men, 1 woman came and left. We're standing there on the streets, and these men come, and I'm looking at them, and they're terrified. They are standing and they're terrified, like their voices are trembling. They're kind of trembling. They're looking
Wow.
around. They're looking for directed energy weapons. They're looking for
Uh-huh.
being recorded. There's cameras everywhere. Like, and I had so much respect for them that they even got out there.
Yeah,
And, people say that MK Ultras were targeted because they're radiation resistant, because there's something about them that they couldn't be destroyed. And so they tried to like basically F them up as much as they could. So they're too dysfunctional to do what we're doing.
exactly. To this,
Couldn't really
exactly,
kill him or
exactly.
something. And
Completely fragmented. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so they couldn't organize, let alone unite and do what we're doing. So Timothy is out there. So he's going to be there on Sunday. I'm going to be there on Sunday. We'll see how many other people we
Great,
can get. I messed up
great.
the address on my Instagram thing because I think I was stressed. But
Of
okay, it's at the
course.
Gates Foundation. It's Fifth and Mercer. And we're going to have signs and we'll see how many people get. But even if we just have the 2 of us, there's something energetic, good, light that happens when we do that. It's just real and true. So I can't come to Seattle and survive a trip like this without doing that. I have to do some kind of thing in person. Otherwise, I just feel like I'm going to go insane with rage
Of course,
at
of
what was
course.
done to me and no justice after all this time. Uh, and then I was trained to use my anger to maim, torture, hurt, and kill. That's how I was trained as a asset slave. I
Oh, wow.
never want to do that. I'm a
Very,
of
that
rage
just clicked
recovery.
to me because that was reminding me of the BTK killer, kind of. Find, torture, kill. Ridgeway, was it?
So Ridgway, I don't know that he was the same as BTK. Um, there might be 2 killers, or
Oh,
maybe,
there's the Green River Killer and
yeah,
the
Green River is
BTK.
Ridgway.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
these men are connected. The
Yes.
Zodiac killer that was never connected. So
Yes.
so these are like gladiators for the cult.
Yeah.
They're looked at as those are the gladiators. So Ridgway was involved in my abuse, my uncle. So we'll
Oh,
get to
wow.
that, and when we get into more
Wow.
detail.
Yeah.
But the
That's
training,
crazy.
they had the same training that I did, which is it is to shunt all of that rage over everything that happened to me and and then aim it toward the unworthy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right. And so aim
Wow.
it toward the but who are the unworthy? It's the throwaway children. I mean, again, this language is so
Yeah.
satanic, but it's the ones who are not strong enough to survive.
Uh-huh.
And therefore we have a right, and this is my horrible training talking, so don't let it creep you out too much, but we
Of
have a
course.
right to destroy the unworthy. And so I have those neural pathway channels in me that
Of
I've
course.
rerouted through my rage recovery and my 12-step
Of
addiction
course.
recovery and all that stuff. But when I'm in Seattle, I feel it so strong because the rage at the injustice is so strong. And so
Of
that's where
course.
I'm like, ooh. So it's like, okay, I have to create a safe outlet and it has to be in person because I have to be embodied. So I'm going to go stand on the street corner on Sunday, have my bullhorn. Tim and I will play some stuff. And I was thinking of playing something with your permission from your Louder Than Love series because
Of course, absolutely. You have
I thought that was that was an insult to Seattle and the men of Seattle who were empowered by the grunge movement because
yes.
Chester and Chris had something of their hearts and they spoke into the pain of men and the isolation and the scream, the vocal range. It was like, and then of course the electronic broadcast and the guitar. So they took all
Being
of
survivors
that.
themselves, and all of it,
Yes. Yes, yes. So anyway, I don't know what I just had to say all of that, I guess, as we're before we wrap up.
Amazing. No, amazing. This is I mean, your story is quite a story. The connections, and obviously I've always felt a romanticism and a sort of mysticism with the Seattle area, as many musicians that grew in the 90s do, because
Yeah.
it was something that, it was real music because it pandered to real problems, to real common men and common women problems, not this barrage of nonsense that to some degree the 80 metal bands and pop music were putting out there, which
Like
is
a
not something
parody.
that you could identify with. I cannot identify with whatever Motley Crue was singing about.
Yeah, satanic rage-ish, but just crazy versus actually soulful, whole
Exactly.
heartbreak and angst, but also passion and love and fire and everything
And
that was
trying to build
embodied.
something beautiful from darkness, which is what I think grunge is. It's like taking this isolation, this pain, this suffering, and canalizing it into something that can actually save lives. Because in my case, music did save my life to some degree. It also, and it wasn't the music, it was the people around it, managed to also harm me. But it's this beautiful redemption story, as
Yes.
we were talking, that connects with people. And people like Kurt or Elaine or Chris, nobody thought they were going to become someone when they were young, and they
No.
just became these juggernauts of a complete emotional movement that to this day have emboldened and saved many lives just by communicating this message that you're not alone.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that. I love what you said by hearing, and I think Chris Cornell said that by hearing people, or maybe it was Chester, but you were in by hearing people speak about the pain, he was instantly connected with them. And that's
Yes.
what he wanted to do with his lyrics.
Yes. And
And
he did it. Wow. Oh, wow, he did it.
oh God, he did it. I went to Lollapalooza. I was at the concert. So this Sunday, I want to kind of dedicate. I want to dedicate to Chris. I want to dedicate to Chester. I want to dedicate to you, to all the musicians
Thank
whose
you.
spirits were almost, they were murdered or snuffed out, but so many are still alive who still have that inspiration in them, but were traumatized by their role models being you know, oh, he killed himself. Oh, did he really? No, he was murdered, which is also scary. So better keep
Yeah.
a lid on it. But they're not even consciously thinking that. They're just kind of getting on with their lives. But it's like, let us remember that scream. You know, let us remember and let's put it to service to protecting innocence, which is,
Exactly.
you know, so
Which
yeah.
is what became, I guess that's what their main purpose in life ended up being, that one. You know, it wasn't even, but they were famous already. Sadly, their families were crumbling because they were co-opted to fall in love with these women who were ultimately handlers and controllers.
Yes.
Uh,
Which is what
but
I was trained to be, that woman. Like, so that I'd
imagine,
like to talk more about that whole thing of being trained to capture and bring the melt down.
of course. Well, we can open up with that in the Total Disclosure podcast in a couple of days, I guess it is. No?
Yeah, if you want to do it, I'm free. If not, we can
Yeah,
put it
sure.
off.
Of course, I want to do it. And
Yeah.
that way we can also maybe make a bit of noise for this Sunday event,
Okay.
because I have some followers from Seattle. So maybe perhaps some of them can do a little driving and make an event out of it and go and
Even
meet
if
you.
they don't want to get out at the gate center, let them drive by and honk. We'd love to wave. It would make us
Even if it's
smile.
that, or maybe, throw a taco through the window
Oh yeah, we can be fed.
so you guys don't have to deviate and get lunch
That would
outside of
be
the
great.
class.
Better than eggs. We've never had eggs thrown at us, but we've been there many times. But Tim's been there the most. So if people want to go, they can park at the QFC. You know, they're supposed to buy something,
Perfect.
but it's free, whatever. Anyway, so okay, so maybe we wrap up. It's almost been an hour and a half. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I'm very grateful for this, and I'm very intrigued to what's gonna be the whole product of what we're doing, because I gotta say this has like a vibe of being a chronicle, something like a really extensive, in depth, and I'm actually curious to what, for example, your friend Janet is gonna say. I know her. I spoke with her a couple of times. She's really nice. I think most people are really gonna like what we did here today, and hopefully we can follow up with something that matches the intensity and quality of this episode.
I hope so too. And if people watch, if they get engaged, if they ask us questions, that would be really fun too.
That
You
would
know?
be fun, of
Yeah, I
course.
haven't been
Yes,
looking on YouTube at all. I probably should peek over
me
there.
neither.
Um, uh,
Perhaps we can answer some of them for the next one.
yeah, that'd be fun.
Questions. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I hope it is. I hope it is going. It looks like it is. It says
It
YouTube.
is.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
great.
All right. So shall I stop it? We wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap up and meet in 2 days then.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So we'll
Sounds like
see
a plan.
you on Wednesday, this week, and
Same time, no?
same time. Yeah.
Same time. Okay, perfect.